Hi everybody, and welcome back to another live stream from the floor of the Sydney Summit. With us, we have an amazing new person joining us.
And it's not me.
And it's not you, and it's not Chris,
No,
and it's not me, who's been here on stage all day pretty much.
Yep.
But this is Paul Migliorini. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pete. It is awesome to be here at this year's, the 8th Sydney Summit.
Woo!
It's awesome to be here with you guys.
So Paul, tell everybody who are you and what do you do? Because you had a pre-intro in the previous segment, but do let our viewers know what you do.
Well, I have I guess the great privilege of leading the team across Australia and New Zealand. Been in this role for about 4 years now and seen incredible growth across Australia and New Zealand, and incredible amounts of amazing work from customers all across this region. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So speaking of customers, you did the keynote this morning and talked about a whole bunch of really interesting things.
Yeah.
Let me just pull at the thread a little bit. You mentioned something about skills and education and what's needed in the Australian marketplace. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Because it was a very interesting insight into potentially the skills gap that we have.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the interesting things that's going on right now, particularly here, is there's incredible work that's happening across every part of Australia. You look at organisations like Qantas, organisations like Lion doing amazing innovation work. We've heard from NAB and Woodside. But then there's the startups here. People like Baraha, making LiDAR systems for autonomous vehicles, which I think is really cool. You saw Canva.
I used to work at Canva.
You used to work at Canva. They're doing extremely cool things.
Yep.
Democratizing access to design. They hit their billionth design.
How awesome was that? Yeah.
Billionth design. And tomorrow you'll hear from an incredible security startup here that's helping companies fight bots. 23-year-old founder. It is amazing. So we've got this great culture with these amazing people. And when we think about this, I have this, this saying in my head that the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed, right? And so we think that the biggest thing we can be doing today to create tomorrow here in Australia is investing as much as we can in skills. So we've set ourselves this mission to train 500,000 people in the next 5 years here. But it's not just us, right? I mean, we've got this culture in this industry where people collaborate on skills. Where people collaborate.
This is a live event. And whenever there's a question coming, there's a ball thrown our way. So we've got a couple of questions, I think.
We've got a couple of questions?
Are coming through, maybe just a few too many.
And a shout out to Migs' family. That's the people who are throwing the balls.
Yeah, my family who are supposed to love me are throwing things at me, exactly.
And no one said 8 right? Any questions?
Any questions?
Why do we love developers?
We love developers today are the builders that are driving innovation at every level of the economy across Australia and New Zealand. And as I said, we have thousands of developers here, and they're some of the best developers in the country, and the thing that's going to drive more builders, more companies to do great things in the future is developers. And it goes back to this skills narrative, right? Like the more we can be doing as a community to drive skills is better for everyone. 50,000 people across Australia and New Zealand in AWS user groups. How cool is that? No relationship with
us, right?
With AWS at all. Right. So I love what's going on with skills, as you can probably tell.
Yes.
I get a great question. Are we hiring?
Are we ever? Are we ever? We have hundreds of roles open as we speak, as do our partners, as do our customers. There has never been a better time to work in our industry right now. We are hiring left, right and centre.
And so, Migs, if we look at the summit, the event itself, one of the interesting things you mentioned in your keynote was it's not your typical sales, marketing, technology conference. It's really about a learning experience. Partners, customers, and us learning as well. Can you maybe talk about the importance of that?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we think is fundamentally different because we don't really sell anything. No. We have a platform, we launch services. What we aim to do through this event is create awareness. And when we have awareness, give people the tools to do cool things. And therefore, the single biggest thing we think of when we put this event together is about learning. And you see a lot of technology conferences and there's a lot of sizzle, there's a lot of product announcements. We don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make sure people come away with a set of new skills, hopefully a few good new ideas that they can take back and build new stuff with.
Have you had like a favorite session or customer conversation today? That was another one.
Well, for me, I think that going back to Innovation Day yesterday, listening to Ellen Joyce speak for me was, I had goosebumps listening to Ellen Joyce speak. For a few reasons. One, because the guy is an outstanding leader. Think back to 2013 when he grounded the fleet. You might have remembered he told a story yesterday where he said, in his first media interview after taking that job, he was on Sunrise and they said to him, the first question they gave him was, we've taken a poll and 98% of people across Australia think you should be fired. Only 2% of people think you should have your job. And then someone walked past with a pair of dogs and said, "You're an idiot, Joyce," and let the dogs off the lead, and they went and attacked him. So that's pretty tough. But he had big vision, he had high conviction. But the other thing that I think is interesting is the fact that, whilst there's a lot of great technology that's going on here, it really is being led by business. There's big business visionaries trying to solve big problems, whether that's transforming an airline and putting, long-haul flights on between Australia and
Perth.
the US and
London.
Europe, or whether it's democratizing design, or whether it's making autonomous vehicles run better. We're solving big problems. It's
Absolutely.
not just about tech.
Right.
Fellas, Migs wins the award because he's got the most questions by far any guest has
Is that
received
right?
Oh, yeah.
through the
And the
chat.
most number of balls launched at a
So
individual
many
at
of
any
them.
point in time.
A couple people want to know what your favorite AWS service is and whether there are noticeable differences between our region compared to other regions.
My favorite AWS service, well, I think the services that I'm loving most at the moment are our AI services.
Yeah.
What we're seeing with recognition for video, things like Connect, the integrations that happen with Lex and Poly is pretty cool. I think there's a revolution happening right now around transforming the customer experience using those AI services. I think that's really cool. I'm loving what customers are doing with SageMaker, democratizing access to machine learning. We heard this morning from Formula One. And from Electronic Arts. I mean, this is really cool stuff. Local organisations like car sales doing the same. For me, that's the stuff that gets me out of bed in the morning right now.
The deep racer track.
And the deep racer
so
track.
Fun.
How amazing is
So
that?
fun. All right, well, what advice would you give someone who wants to get started with any of our services?
With any of our services, come to Summit.
Come.
Come to Summit, attend some sessions, attend some courses, and just get started. Just get started. Pick some simple things to do and get started, because it's not as difficult as you think. There's so many people doing so many amazing things. Just get started.
So, Migs, if you were to meet someone in the street and say, what are you doing? I work for AWS. And they say, I have this great idea for a new business. What would you tell them? What would be your first bit of advice to somebody who doesn't really understand technology and doesn't really know anything about AWS?
Well, I think the big difference between today and, say, 10 years ago is that actually more or less any technology use case you can reasonably think about today, you can prosecute.
Pretty much.
So don't be constrained. 10 years ago it was hard. You had to invest a lot of capital in technology platforms.
Playing defense now.
I love my family. I love my family.
I love you.
Yeah, I obviously love it. You have to invest a lot of capital in technology platforms. You have to train for years. That's not the case. You can experiment. You can build for a few $100s. I mean, if you want to build a new revolutionary way to interact with customers, if you want to build a new digital platform, you can do all of that really quickly. So just think big, find a problem to solve, go learn some simple things on the platform and start experimenting.
I got a good one for you. Now look, I see a lot of little girls sitting down here, and I think that's going to factor into this, but someone's asking me, what are you doing to promote diversity at Amazon, at AWS?
We are deeply passionate about the role that all people will play in technology, but particularly in helping to inspire particularly young girls for careers in tech.
They're all on their phones. There you go. There's a future generation.
And we have a future generation of builders here, of young entrepreneurs, young visionaries on their phone. So clearly I'm not interesting. But there's a whole lot we're doing. We can't do enough, but I think one of the things we've loved about today is Student Track.
Yes, 500 students?
500 students from high schools around New South Wales, 50% gender diverse, and what we're trying to do is expose those young students to what careers in technology could mean.
It's the Spheros I've seen
The
around the office lately. Yeah.
But look at the female leaders we had on stage today, right? You had Lisa Green from Canva, one of the most outstanding leaders you'll ever come across.
And the holy cool t-shirts are.
And they've got t-shirts, that'll do it.
She builds t-shirts, yay!
Grania Kearns, the CIO of Lion, what they're doing. So amazing female role models. Chris, I think you're one of those too. But we just want to expose them to what careers in tech could mean. We're making some progress, we're not making enough. We've got to do a whole lot more.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that in a lot of big companies, the diversity is the box to be ticked, and I never got the impression that it didn't mean something personal to you, and now I can really see that. It comes flying in my head every few minutes, but...
Well, honestly though, I think it's a question of mathematics.
Yeah.
One of the great advantages we have here in Australia is we've got immensely talented people. Big ideas, strong ambitions, great vision. But we're a small nation. We're a small nation. And today there's only 15% of tertiary graduate students that are female, which means that when we think about tapping this incredible pool of talented people, we're only tapping 65%. right? So how do we make that 100%? Because it's a mathematical equation.
We
We've
got
got
roles
amazing
to fill.
people. we've got a whole lot of stuff we need to do. So let's get everyone engaged in this journey, and that's kind of my fundamental belief, and I think we're all on board with it.
Well, what's the best thing about working at AWS? That's a question from Fire Drake.
I quite honestly believe that that there's no other company in the world that gives you the ability to experiment, to think big, and to think long term, and frankly creates an environment where you can fail. And for me, that is wonderful. You get to think long term and really go after some really, really big things for customers, and that gets me out of bed every morning. I love it.
Yeah.
And so, Migs, what about encouraging that type of culture with our customers? So you've been with AWS now, 4 years? Actually, I can remember us having a coffee just before you started.
That's right.
Talking about the company, and you started in September 2015. I moved from Sydney to Hong Kong.
You did?
In September 2015.
Did I have anything to do with that?
It's not you, it's me. It's me, it's me. But in that time, in the last 4 years, how have you seen some of the enterprise customers you work with really change that mindset and encourage that culture of innovation?
Yeah. Look, it has changed radically in Australia in the last 4 years, radically. We've always had a culture here of great startups and digital natives and software companies like Atlassian and Xero, but in the last 4 years, big established Australian companies are leading the world.
Right.
Frankly, they're leading the world. And what we've seen is that there was a lot of kind of resistance to cloud 4 years ago. Will it be a new platform? Will we move? Is it secure? Does it scale? Those conversations are done, right? And so what we see now is big customers. Let's take NAB, right? Like NAB have a big vision. They're engaging their entire workforce in this transformation. They've trained 4,000 people in the last 12 months, including 500 of their partner resources.
Right.
Then they're giving those teams the scope to go work on really interesting innovation projects. They're giving them the scope to do amazing things, and it's just engaging the workforce in those organisations in really interesting ways. And we're seeing that at Qantas, at Woodside, at Commonwealth Bank of Australia. There's so many organisations doing it across the board here. It's tremendously exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Paul, we have this motto at AWS around work fun, right? So work hard, have fun, and make history.
And make history, yep.
Yes. What do you do for fun?
History. Most of the time, I hang out with my family, but I might need to think of other things to do to have fun, since my family are now throwing things
become
at
a target, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody's asking us, and I know this might be getting into secret sauce here, but what is next beyond AI/ML that we're working on? What do you see coming down the path?
Well, so clearly, where we get our cues are from our customers, right? So as you know, 90% of what we build comes directly from customer feedback. The other 10% is us trying to interpret what they're asking for and invent on their behalf. But I can see a path that anything related to data and innovation is going to continue to be fertile ground.
Yeah.
You look last year at reInvent RoboMaker, the ability to program robots and the role robotics is going to have.
We have a very cool session on that tomorrow.
We have a cool session on robotics,
Yep.
augmented reality, machine learning.
Yep.
In Australia, IoT is going to be huge, I think, in the next 2 years for sure. But lots and lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, I think we've done all the ones in the chat.
We have. Okay, and no more balls being thrown. Last chance, girls. They can have a shot at that.
Anything else to throw at Dad? No, I think we're good. I think we're
You can't
good.
pick up anything and throw it.
Yeah.
Half the world is watching your dad getting hit by the ball. It's like,
Oh, we still got a couple minutes. We can ask him. We can grill him on a few more things.
Let's go. Let's do more things.
So Paul, technical question.
Oh, hit it.
No JS or Java.
And why?
And why?
That is just not fair. You had me lined up on that question before I even got up here.
I want to know, you stood in front of a lot of people this morning.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous when you do that?
I get terrified.
Oh my gosh.
I get terrified.
Yeah.
So I've done that 4 times, and sitting there watching that room fill up, you're looking back going, no, don't look back, don't look back. So it is terrifying.
And that huge screen.
That huge screen. Glenn, on the other hand,
makes it look so easy.
he makes it look so easy.
Oh my gosh.
You're sitting up there going, all you picture is you walk up those stairs, and all you can picture is you falling flat on your face and having 8,000 people laugh at you.
Oh.
Because I'm sure they would.
Well, it's quite amazing, because if you watch the live stream, there was this clever pan of the camera where they were slowly panning through the audience, and at one point they went totally wide angle.
Yeah.
It was like,
Thank
my
you.
God, how big was that? Right?
Someone tweeted that our audience spanned time zones this morning. It was really like that.
Not to terrify you a little bit more, but we do have a few thousand viewing you right now. You just can't see
No
that.
pressure.
They're not staring at me. I hope I'm not embarrassing myself as much now as I did this morning.
I think we can let him off the hook now, fellas. I think we can let him go.
Awesome. Well, look, Paul, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. It is so great to be here.
And it's so hard to get in your diary, so I really appreciate you could make the time to actually be here with us, and with tens of thousands of people watching you live.
Live audience.
Thank you
yeah.
so much. It's been fun.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Paul.
folks.
Guys,
Thanks,
thanks for
everybody.
watching the live stream. There's a lot more coming your way, so don't change Twitch channels. Stay put. We'll be right back.
Bye.